Welcome to another hustle moment. So back in 2006, when I first started, this actually my 20-year anniversary of when I became a salesperson, a wireless sales expert. And it started, my cousin, Slim Bull, he pretty much was the one that got me into wireless. You know, he had a goal of getting out the hood. We both had the same ideas. We was like, you know what? It's a loophole. It's a way for us to get out the hood. We was on the porch talking about this in the hood on 123rd in St. Clair way back then, and we actually was able to accomplish it. Now let me break this down. I basically started selling phones, and what happened was my first day. That's what we're gonna talk about today on this hustle story. We're gonna talk about my first day ever getting out here and jumping outside the box, taking a leap of faith and doing something different. You know, before then I was working at Pizza Hut, days, moving stuff, doing things like that. I didn't have a diploma. I wasn't, certified in anything, didn't have any trades. Well, I was able to land the job, and we'll talk about this another day on how I got the job and all of that, but let's just talk about that first day. So the first day, what made me realize like this was for me, becoming a wireless expert, somebody that knows the business and able to teach other people how that all came into fruition was my first day. I didn't know what to expect. I was out there just nervous. I was shy. People was like, yeah, he's not no salesperson. He's not a salesperson. He's a hood guy. He's never going to be good at that. People didn't have faith in me because they thought that back in those days in 2006, it was like, hey man, usually people that come from the hood, they stick to the hood things. They don't really do too much of anything else. You had your outliers, but I was one of the few people that was able to take the knowledge and stuff that I learned from the streets and bring it into a business, something that actually was going to be able to make me money and gross income. So long story short, man, I got into the kiosk. It was this company called the mobile solution. We were authorized retailers of T-Mobile. So we sold T-Mobile phones, although we were a whole different company called the mobile solution. So we just can sell T-Mobile. So the thing is, we're in the middle of the mall. Our job is, this was when malls were still busy in Cleveland, Ohio, or in just in Ohio in general. Our job was to greet as many people as possible. I wasn't making nothing but like minimum wage. It was like $5 an hour. But the goal wasn't to make $5 an hour. The goal was for you to make $50 per sale. Because back in those days, you got $50 for the first two lines. The third line was 10. So if you was able to get three lines out, you were able to make a quick $60 just off three phones. So of course, I was thinking in my head like, okay, so if I'm selling about four phones a day, I'm making at least 160. And back then, 160 was crazy. So my first day, I'm in the kiosk. Me and Slim Bull, which is my cousin, the one that put me on in this business. He put a lot of people on in this business. We were just chatting, and he was like, "All right, it's your first day, man. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you gonna do." So pretty much, he was like, "Yeah, man. We just greet everything moving. We talk to, and we pretty much put ourselves in a position to try to get a sale. The more people you talk to, the more opportunities you get." Well, if everybody knows anything, if you know anything about sales, like I know anything about sales, in those situations you're gonna get a lot of no's. Like before I got my first greet out, I'm looking at every rep that was in our kiosk struggling, striking out, not getting any customers. A few was getting some over the talk, but none was getting people to commit. So y'all might not believe me, but this is an absolute true story. The first customer I talked to, a young lady, she had a teenage daughter, and I was like, hey, excuse me, miss, quick question. And I was new. I used this greet throughout my career because it worked on my first customer. Excuse me, miss, quick question. She literally walked over to me, my first greet, walked over to me and said, yeah, what's going on? I said, boom, this is my opportunity. The first person that I greeted, I got them to come over, which made me feel great. It was exhilarating. It was like, wow, I just called somebody over. I'm a whole stranger. I'm an entire stranger. And she came over to walk over to see exactly what I wanted to talk to her about. So back then, flip phones was the thing. It wasn't really about smartphones. iPhones wasn't even available yet at this time. So, you would get a Samsung flip, a Nokia candy bar. and things of that nature. I mean, they had sidekicks and Blackberries and stuff like that, but those weren't the phones that you were going to make your money off of because they costed a lot more money up front. So long story short, I was able to close that deal with a little bit of help from Slim Boy. You know what I'm saying? I did the hard work. He just helped me out a few things that I was like skeptical about or didn't know because it was my first day and my first greet, my first customer in general. And lo and behold, that customer decided to get two phones, one for her and one for her daughter. I made $100 off the first customer that I talked to. Ever since that day, I told myself like, wow, I might have just stumbled on a gold mine. I don't have to really play around in the streets anymore. I can actually get a career out of this and become an established sales representative for the mobile solution slash T-Mobile. And it was a feeling that I haven't felt in so long because I was going through like poverty stricken. You know, I moved out the house when I was 16. So by this time I'm like 22. I got a child on the way. Like it's a lot of things that was going on in my mind. I was struggling. And that moment right there just made me realize like, man, I actually got my opportunity and I'm not going to squander it. So from that day on, it let me know that it's possible. So what I want to tell you guys is whenever you feel like you got a roadblock in front of you and it's something that you can't do, just think about once you complete the obstacle and you get over it, that's your first sale. No matter what it is in life, man. You ain't got to be selling phones. You don't got to be selling cars. You could be doing anything that is something that you want to push forward towards being great at, and you're going to run into an obstacle. And when you run into an obstacle, just think about when you complete it, that's your first sale. We all got one. All right, y'all. Tomorrow, get ready. We got App Wars, the championship going on. So if y'all been keeping up with the App Wars, and even if you haven't been keeping up with the App Wars, you won't want to see it. Tomorrow we're going to do the video, so it might drop either tomorrow or the day after. But just know, App Wars, the championship is about to go down, man. Hey, hustle with Trey, man. Y'all take care. Have a great day. Peace.